Welcome to Professionalism in the Classroom and the Workplace by the University of Arkansas Career Development Center. In this video, we will define professionalism and why it's important, as well as look at a few tips and things to keep in mind. Professionalism can be defined multiple ways, but we've honed in on 8 specific areas, many of which we'll talk about today. These include behaving with integrity and honesty, finding ways to be productive during slow times, so looking for ways to contribute even without assigned tasks, communicating effectively through multiple mediums, being punctual and managing one's time, taking responsibility for behavior, both the good and the bad, dressing appropriately, working effectively with others, and of course, having high-quality work standards. Now, this is important because 92% of HR executives and managers believe that colleges and universities should develop professionalism in their students. The first area where we'll concentrate is integrity and honesty. Hopefully, as students, you already have some idea of what this looks like, at least in a classroom setting. So you know you want to steer clear of things like plagiarism, cheating, helping others cheat, or not reporting cheating, which can make you just as culpable, just as liable. Selling and or giving away study guides, tests, and other class materials. For more information on this area, you can visit the Office of Academic Initiatives and Integrity at the University of Arkansas. When we're transitioning into a more professional setting, there are other types of things you want to stay away from, such as not giving credit to coworkers, submitting false information, time cards, expense reports, that sort of thing. And then stealing office supplies or just generally using any work resources for personal gain or personal use. When we look at IT misuse on the job, for example, excessive use of social media, 83% of employers have had problems with their employees using social media excessively. When we look at excessive personal cell phone use, this is just talking on the phone, 65% of managers have had a problem with their employees. Non-work related use of the internet, 78%. And texting at inappropriate times, 92% of employers have mentioned that they have had problems with their employees texting at inappropriate times during the work hours. Now we'll transition to email. What percentage of HR managers and executives think poor email grammar, spelling, and language is a problem for their employees? The answer? 81%. So let's look at some do's and don'ts with regard to email etiquette. Don't assume that email is private, especially if you're using a work or a college account. Do, however, acknowledge receipt of messages promptly. Don't use too casual a tone, especially for supervisors or professors. But do strike a balance between formal and casual language, keeping things short and concise. Please don't reply to all on your work emails if your message isn't relevant to everyone. It just clogs people's email inboxes. But do double check your response before sending to multiple recipients. For an example of what not to do for an email, let's look at something that might be sent to a professor. You'll notice the email address is completely inappropriate. There's no subject line, which would make it more difficult for a faculty member or a coworker or a supervisor to go back and try to find a specific email, especially if you've emailed back and forth multiple times. In this instance, this person isn't really giving much information on the front end and is being very casual in their greeting. We have a problem with capitalization. We have a problem with text speak. And in this instance, instead of just saying, "Hi, this is JJ, I'm in your class," give more information. Give your first and last name, Tell what class. I'm in your 9:40 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday section of whatever class. In this instance, the student missed class last week, but is just now mentioning it to the professor. You want to make sure, if you know you're going to be out of class, let your professor, or if you're going to miss work, let your supervisor know ahead of time, and in as much advance notice as you can. Did I miss anything important? This implies that there are things in the class or workplace environment that are not important, and that's not a message you really want to be sending to your professor or to your supervisor, telling them that you think there are things that aren't important or valuable in their class. Can I get the notes from you? There are times when it will be important for you to receive materials from the professor when you've had to miss class, but you want to start by asking a classmate. Get their notes from the class, ask them if there were any changes to the syllabus, that sort of thing. Make sure you're looking at misspellings. If there are assignments moving forward, just because you've missed a previous class, that will not be an acceptable reason not to have a quiz or have to turn in an assignment in the future. If you've waited until the last minute to ask your professor about something or your boss, don't expect an immediate answer. And make sure that you have some kind of closing. Thank you for your time. Have a good day. That kind of thing. Let's move now to punctuality and managing time. Punctuality is more than just showing up on time. It's also about meeting assignment deadlines in the classroom or in the workplace. Having a study plan for tests and projects so that you are looking ahead with enough time to give yourself time to do the sort of things that you need to do in order to do well on a test. Asking professors or supervisors for anything outside of class in a timely manner. Again, not waiting until the last minute. And then responding to emails quickly. Now, of course, life happens. There will be times when you're sick. There will be times when you have car trouble or something comes up with your family. Just make sure you communicate those to your supervisor, to your professor, to whomever it is in authority, so that they can work with you to the best of their ability to get past whatever the holdup is. As far as managing time, make sure that you turn off your notifications, especially when you are trying to work on a project. So things like email notifications, social media update alerts, these will break your concentration. Set 3 big things for each day and make sure that the majority of the things that you're doing help you accomplish those 3 big goals. Then there's also the Pomodoro technique, which says that short, frequent breaks have been found to improve mental agility. So give yourself 25 minutes of focused work, followed by a 5-minute break afterward, and continue that pattern until you finish your assignment. The National Association of Colleges and Employers asked employers what attributes they seek on a candidate's resume, and here were their answers. You'll notice that many of these go back to the professionalism that we've been talking about. Leadership, ability to work in a team, communication skills, strong work ethic, initiative, flexibility, and adaptability. Handshakes can be a problem for more people than we'd like to admit. We've all had someone who didn't know how to shake a person's hand and it feels uncomfortable. So some problems with this, some areas for improvement could be the air ball, not paying attention to the fact that someone wants to shake your hand. When you're meeting someone for the first time or you're walking into a meeting, watch people's body language so that you're not leaving someone hanging. There's the bone crusher. A handshake is not a time for you to show your physical strength. It's a greeting. It's a welcome. On the other side of that, we have the limp dead fish. And that's when you're trying to shake someone's hand and you don't really get much of their hand, or it feels uncomfortable. The politician, some people like to shake hands with both hands, but that ends up making some people feel uncomfortable or even kind of claustrophobic. The never let go, some people hang on too long. You want to give 2 or 3 shakes with a handshake and then let go. And lastly, the close shaker. Make sure that even though you are touching, even though you are shaking someone's hand, you're still giving them their physical space. So what should a handshake look like? As you approach someone, extend your hand with the thumb up and slightly across your chest, then shake thumb joint to thumb joint, and after 2 or 3 pumps, let go. Next, we move to attire. Depending on the company culture, you may have different styles of dress. Some may be more business casual or even casual. Others may be more professional. So it's important to find out before you start an internship or a job or a co-op. Find out what the attire restrictions and parameters may be, especially if you aren't given a uniform that makes it pretty self-explanatory. So you'll see the models here on the left are in more business casual. You can have a little bit more color, things are more laid back, khaki pants, trousers, more colors and patterns are acceptable. But on the other side, we want to keep to more neutral colors and have more suit jackets and business dress, suit pants, that kind of thing. What percentage of employers use attire to determine promotions? 55%. What percentage of employers have sent someone home for inappropriate attire? 43%. And what percentage of coworkers admit to making judgments based on dress? 74%. So whether we like it or not, whether or not we think it's fair, attire does matter, especially in a professional setting, but even sometimes in a classroom setting. Lastly, we'll look at social media. Just because you think that your social media accounts are on lockdown, that doesn't mean that others won't still be able to see it. There are glitches. People take screenshots of things and post them elsewhere. So you want to make sure that whatever you're posting in whatever platform it may be is appropriate for any audience. So let's look at some examples of what not to do. This is a tweet that says, "I hate my job, I hate my job, I hate my job," over and over and over. And we've all had those kinds of jobs, but if a supervisor were to see this, it might be sending the wrong message. Now, there may be times when, because you may be a younger student or a younger generation in the workplace, it's assumed that you understand how to maneuver, how to use social media. And so in an internship or in a first job out of college, you may be asked to take on some of the social media accounts and post things. It's important to make sure that you're separating your professional and your personal social media accounts. An example of someone who didn't do that comes from the Mark Jacobs International official Twitter, where this person tweeted, "Spelling is hard for me. I hate this job. Hope they find someone soon. Robert is picky. We have presented him with 50 people. He's not happy." And I'm sure he wasn't any happier after this was tweeted. This was something that was supposed to go on the intern's personal tweet or personal Twitter and accidentally went on their professional. Here we have someone who tweets, "This Ivy application makes me want to projectile vomit into the head of admission's mouth." And of course, people in the admission office are also familiar with social media. They saw it and said, "Duly noted." And the person had to come back and try to backpedal and say, "I take it back, OMG, accept me please." Here we have a teacher. "So happy to be done with school for 10 days, but especially to be away from the ones who truly try my patience and make my trigger finger itchy." When asked about it, she said that it was a personal tweet. Anything that goes out on social media is no longer personal. Again, even if you think that you have everything on lockdown, it is still considered public. All of these tweets were deleted within 24 hours, but someone took a screen cap and it lives on forever. This is from a nurse at a hospital who tweets, "Congrats, Blake Lively. Glad to have you and baby girl Violet in our care." The problem was Blake Lively, an actress, had not announced that she was in labor, nor had she announced the name and sex of her child. So the nurse was breaking HIPAA confidentiality laws. She tweeted later, "I think I'm in trouble." What percentage of employers look at social media before hiring? The answer here is 56%. But if we look at these three numbers, this shows the growth, this shows the change over the last 3 years. We've seen the number of employers who look at social media before hiring starting to really balloon. And then what percent of companies have fired an employee for social media misuse? In this case, it's 63%. For more information about professionalism or other services, other options from the Career Development Center at the University of Arkansas, you can contact us by the information that you see here, by phone or on our website. You can also come by our office at the Arkansas Union, Suite 607, or connect with us on Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook.